the beginning to feel a lot like Christmas. And this is God's Comic Bradstein, and this is Bradstein Has Issues Christmas Week, where comedy, conservatism, and Christianity collide in a cacophony of clarity. And who better to have as a special guest this week than Keith Thibodeaux? That's right. Little Ricky from I Love Lucy is going to be on with us today. What a special treat. What? Remember when you grew up watching I Love Lucy, you used to sit at home and just wait for 7 o'clock Central every Wednesday night in 1952 when you would sit there and say, oh, when's Little Ricky going to come on? Because he played drums, as do you, and he played it as a young prodigy. I think he was 6 or something or other, 4, who knows, and he nailed it. So Wyatt, tell me about your experiences with I Love Lucy.
My experience is actually more than you'd expect.
All right.
I've never seen the show,
Okay.
but I know exactly who you're talking about.
Right.
I was introduced to I Love You, Lucy
Yeah.
by Weird Al Yankovic, who made a parody of, like, that.
Okay.
I had no idea what it was at that point. I'm like, what is this? This is weird.
Yeah. So what was that song called? I remember seeing that song.
I forget the name of it. I can probably look it up, but it was not what I was expecting out of a Weird Al album. Then again, do you really expect anything out of a Weird Al album? Things just sort of happen there.
Yeah, you know what? Let me ask you a question. It brings up an interesting point. So I used to think about what it meant to be a performance artist, right? And I'm a stand-up comedian. And in the stand-up comedy world, very much like music, which is the world you were involved with, there's different genres, right? There's the stand-up comic. There's the comics comic. He's a guy that the comedians would sit around and watch because he was just so clever and so just daring in the avenues he was going to take and just really out of the box, and just the comics were just in awe of him. Like a Norm Macdonald was one of those guys. But then there would be the monologist like me doing the stand-up, and then there would be the guitar act, the guy that does music parodies, and then there'd be the juggling guy, and there'd be the comedy magician, which is how I started. And why we used to look down like a hierarchy on the different types of comedy. Now, here's the thing that's true. If I do a comedy routine and you laugh at it, it's funny, right? And if I think it's funny and good and I was entertained, then it doesn't matter what you did, whether you were a juggler or a ventriloquist. If it was funny and I laughed, you did your job, right? But comedians were very stuck up when it came to what we appreciated, and we didn't really appreciate the guitar acts for the most part, or the jugglers. We felt like it was a prop. We felt like it was cheating. It's part of the reason I got rid of my magic. I was a comedy magician because I felt like it was cheating. I did some laughs, but then I did a trick, and I felt like, you know what could I make this happen with my mind, my mouth, and my mic, and that's that? And I was intrigued by that, and so that was the direction I went. But I used to think about this one particular style of comedy that, to me, I would I would struggle to be successful at and feel satisfied, and that was the guy that does mimicry. In other words, an impressionist. Now, there was Rich Little. He was the guy that I remember growing up with, who could do all these impressions of other acts. And they nail it, right? I mean, they can do their face, their voice, and I can't do it. I will give them credit. If you can sound like another person and nail. Dana Carvey's great doing impressions. There's lots of guys who can do it. But here was my problem, and I want to get your take on this. They make a living pretending or mimicking someone who made a living being talented. In other words, they pretend to be somebody who's actually made it being themselves as an actor, as a singer, whatever they are. You know, hey, look, I can do John Wayne. Well, John Wayne got famous because he was John Wayne and he was an actor, and you're mimicking him, and you're getting paid to pretend to be a guy that actually was talented being him. So you're only making a living by mimicking somebody who was talented. Now, again, it's talent to be able to fake somebody's voice. So I'm not pretending that didn't have its own thing. But do you see what I'm saying? There's this kind of dichotomy of you're only able to make a living because you pretend to be somebody that's famous in another genre. So that wouldn't, I would feel like that'd be unsatisfying because it's like lip syncing.
So basically, what you're saying is impressionists are the reaction comment videos.
Right.
You're not necessarily adding anything of value. You're just taking someone else's work and just piggybacking off of it, basically.
Yes, you are profiting off of somebody else's work. And by the way, it's not the same as in reaction videos because the reaction video, true enough, is taking somebody else's content and you're just sitting there going,
exactly. How is that any different? You're using someone else's work, and you are getting the money and the fame for it.
okay.
What exactly do impressionists add to the person they're imitating
Nothing.
that gives them value?
Nothing other than they'll caricature them and they'll find some little quirk about them that they exaggerate and makes it funny. No, what I'm saying is that you still have to be able to fake their voice. That is a talent that the guy that goes,
okay, but like, is there really?
I can't stand that.
I
can't stand that social media nonsense where they pick a clip and just say, huh? Can you believe it? At least the guys that comment on the things have their own thoughts and their own insights to bring to bear on this thing.
Yeah.
But the impressionist does have to, and I've said this already a couple times, White, if you didn't listen. And why would you? You're only my sidekick. But I said you have to have a talent to be able to do the impression. So that's the difference. They do have a talent that they add by bringing it to the table.
Okay, but is that talent used correctly?
Yes.
Like, is that the best way they could be using that talent to just mindlessly piggyback off of someone else's success?
Well, because they're not. They're actually giving them lines. They're actually had to do the dissection of their little facial expressions and everything. No, they have a skill. You're missing my point completely. What I'm saying is they are making a living saying, look at this famous person I can pretend to be for a second. Hey, look at this famous person, much more famous than me, that I can pretend to be. Matter of fact, they have to be more famous than them because they have to mimic them, and you have to go, oh, he's doing Tom Cruise. Oh, he's pretending to be a famous guy. So I'm just saying, to me, it feels like lip syncing, like you're doing, those.
Well, no, that's a totally different thing, because you said that they have talent.
Yeah.
Where's the talent in lip syncing?
No, but what I mean is they're getting credit for allegedly singing and they didn't sing.
Exactly. Yeah. How is doing something or pretending to do something that you're not doing different than pretending to be someone you're not?
I don't know. Maybe at the end of all this, I've talked myself out of it, and actually I'm thinking there is some value to this thing. But I just... Okay, let me put it to you like this. Okay. When I started out doing comedy, there's a thing called a stock joke. Have you ever heard of a stock joke?
Oh, yeah, you've told me all of them.
Okay, so the stock joke, for those who don't know, and if you're watching the show and you don't know about comedy, let me see if I can inform you. A stock joke is a joke that everybody could use. That it just became part of the vernacular that was available to everything. I'm trying to think of one that I could do. A lot of them were dirty, so I didn't use them anyways. Oh, one would be like if you dropped a glass and it broke. You're sitting there talking and you hear it because you're in a nightclub. Usually glasses, beer bottles get knocked over, whatever. And the person would say, hey, just put that anywhere. And everybody, he broke it. And he said, just put that anywhere. That's a stock joke. In other words, anytime that thing happened, the comedian could just sort of pull that out of his bag of tricks, say it, everybody laughs. It takes care of the moment, gets rid of the moment, and allows us to keep moving because you got to...
Yeah, it's basically comedic lip syncing.
It's comedic lip sync.
Because you're pretending to be a comedian, but really you're just using someone else's work.
No.
Well, somebody had to invent those
That's right.
stock.
Yeah.
So you're just stealing their stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
You're lip syncing.
You're not, because you're saying it.
Well, yeah, but lip syncers still steal. They're just stealing from themselves. It's basically self-plagiarization.
That's right. So what I'm saying is this. Do you know why a stock joke is stock?
Because it's basically public domain. Anyone can use it.
Yeah, but you know why people use it?
Because they're generic and they work for a myriad of situations.
They work. They're funny. The reason that a stock joke works is because it's funny, or it wouldn't have become stock. People would have ignored it. So my point is simply this. When I started out as a comic, I had these jokes I would hear other guys do, and I would use them. Yeah. And there wasn't a ton, but there'd be, whatever, a handful that everybody'd heard, and it was kind of stock. It was public domain. It was available to any comic that wanted to use it. So one day I got a laugh from one of those stock jokes. I don't remember what happened. I got a laugh. And in my mind, I felt it felt hollow. Now, do you know why it felt hollow? Because I realized they're laughing. They're giving me credit for something I said, like I was clever and funny and innovative. And I'm thinking, it feels hollow because I didn't write that. That wasn't mine. I'm getting laughter from somebody else's work, somebody else's wisdom, somebody else's insight, somebody else's creativity. And so I felt like if I'm going to be a stand-up comic, I should have my own material for stock situations. So if a bottle breaks, I'm going to write my own joke and not take it from the stock world. If somebody leaves to go to the bathroom in the middle of my set, which would happen all the time. So that was the thing I did, son. I would look, I'm in a comedy club, and there was certain similar things that were probably going to happen that week, probably, for sure. People are going to get up and go to the bathroom during the show. The waitress is going to walk in front of me during the show. It's possible that a drink will get dropped during the show. It's possible that at that time you could smoke in a comedy club. So somebody's going to smoke. It's very likely that they're going to drop the checks during my set. So somebody's going to be going, he's funny. Wait, who had the Michelob Light? Wait, who had? That's what people would do because they got drinks. And that distracts them from watching me, and it distracts them from hearing my show. So I wanted to have a joke for every one of those things so that when the moment happened and I pulled it out of my bag of tricks and I said the thing and everybody laughed, I'm like, yeah, that was mine. And that's what I wanted to add to the table. So my point was simply this. I didn't want to use somebody else's gift or talent or creativity to get accolades because I didn't earn it. I didn't write that. So for the impressionist guy, I'm like, hey, look, if it wasn't for famous people, you wouldn't have an act. Nobody's going to see an impressionist who does the impression of Joe, the Amazon delivery guy. Nobody knows him.
What if Joe was like a local hero in that town?
That's true. He could be incredibly popular. He goes to all of the baseball games. He's the coach or maybe the umpire. He gives at the local soup kitchen. Everybody loves him. Everybody cares about him. He doesn't have his own wife. He's single. People feel sad for him. They want him to have his own. He never has he's just not good with the ladies. His life is miserable, and they feel sorry for him because he's such a good-hearted guy. And so, yeah, maybe just maybe that'd be a great way to give him some accolades, some dignity in the community. I guess that's possible, but highly, highly unlikely, and sad that you even brought it up to ruin the rhythm of this joke.
I was gonna say, or maybe Joe was just Tom Cruise for preparing for his next role, but then you made it sad.
But you know
why'd you make it sad?
Well,
there was an audience listening to this. Do you really want them to be sad? They're the ones who paid the bills.
You're right, and holy smoke, are those bills piling up? But thank goodness for Karen Boyd, for Nick Kress, for Stan Stinson, for Paula Faye Marie Rauchi, for Ashley Haas. Thank goodness for the Bushquacker. Thank goodness for Danny Herring. The people that are paying the bills for the they already paid. They already gave.
Don't you think it's ironic though that bills are both what give you income and what take it away as well?
Yeah.
I think there's a word for like when a word has two conflicting definitions.
Confusion?
No, not confusion. It's like misdirection.
Oh.
Let's see.
Well, I don't
It's
think you know. And so instead of wasting everybody's time who are watching the show.
Oh, yeah. I'm wasting everyone's time, not the guy who spent 10 minutes flip-flopping on whether impressionism is good or bad.
Well,
You
it was
made
weird.
both arguments. I'm surprised.
I got to tell you something. I didn't see that coming. I really thought I was onto something, and it's always bugged me that an impressionist made money doing impressions of people that are famous. And then I kind of said, but he does have a skill, and there is that. And then you jumped in and took the side of the impressionist for some reason, which really threw me a curve. I thought you were going to jump all over what I was at to and go along my side and be my partner in this insight. And instead, you took the antithetical view, and you really took your dad down and threw him under the bus. I didn't see that coming, son.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think I really brought it back with the contronym of Bill. By the way, contronym is the name of a word that has two definitions that conflict.
Give me an example.
Bill, that's one. That's an easy one. It means I'm getting money. It also means I'm spending money. But another one, first degree. First degree murder, serious crime. First degree burn, mild setback. Yeah.
Interesting. What's the name of that thing?
A contronym.
Contronym. Interesting.
And by the way, Bill is the third most recognized contronyms. So you're welcome for nailing that out of the park. I'm sorry. What was that about me derailing things and not adding anything?
Okay.
Oh,
well,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, contronym. I gotta keep that in mind.
Yeah.
You know, it's Christmas time, White. You know, in just a few days, Christmas 2024 is going to be upon us, White. And,
Yeah.
I'm excited as to what you got me. You know, Christmas is a special time, and you know what I do got to say this. When I launched my career and decided to sabotage my opportunity to be famous in the world as a comic because I decided to say I'm a Christian and I'm a conservative, and I'm going to bring that up in my comedy. I didn't realize that some of the material that I was going to come up with that dealt with conservative values, conservative ways of seeing the world, was really me re-remembering what it meant to grow up in America. You know, what was my memories? I remember in Bremen, Indiana, which is the town I was born in, a little tiny town that's still small. It only has 2 stoplights to this day. But they would put up these Christmas decorations in this little town every year, and they would hang them from the lampposts. And they were I just remember these 3 bells. But every time I would see them, it just made me feel, oh, Christmas is coming. And there was this little hut that they would put up in the corner on the main street that Santa would come in and sit, and you could come sit on his lap and he'd give you candy cane and whatever. But it was such an innocent time, White. It was growing up in this little town, and Christmas was here, and it was wintry, and it was just, I loved it, and it felt so safe, and it felt so beautiful. And people would walk down the street and say, Merry Christmas to you. And it just felt like this was what it meant to be an American. There was a tradition of Christmas. Now, it's a Christian holiday, but we were a Christian country. I mean, yeah, you could be a Muslim or a Jew, or you could be an atheist here and live here and have a life and a job. But, you know, we believed that the Pilgrims who formed the nation initially were Christians, and they wanted to build this nation on Christian values and Christian morals and Christian ethics. And so we're going to talk about Christmas. You can have your other stuff too, but we are going to have this continuity of what it means to be an American and what our foundational historical traditions and principles will be. And Christmas was one of them. And so when I began to see sort of this sense of an attack on Christmas, like it was closed-minded, and that it was not honoring other people's beliefs, and somehow, you know, we're more powerful and we're stronger in our diversity, which is such an absurd, counterintuitive phrase, because diversity means lacking in continuity, lacking in homogeneity. You are having lots of different conflicting ideas that somehow make us stronger together. But that's a house divided. And the Bible, which is true, by the way, the Bible's a true book. It's the revelation of reality. It tells us that a house divided falls, that you do need continuity and a foundational historical access to who you are as a nation to be strong together as one. And so I began to see that it's like we wanted to jettison Christmas, and it was so beautiful, it was so special. And I missed that. I felt like that's an important thing. Even atheists can say Merry Christmas. Even Jewish people would say Merry Christmas, though they didn't celebrate it. They knew it was a beautiful thing. And it was nice, and it didn't hurt anybody. And it was about peace on earth, goodwill towards men. Who doesn't resonate with that? It was this Christian concept that everybody could get behind. I wrote a comedy routine about this that ended up being picked up by a group called Go Fish, and they made a song about it, and they used pieces of sampling of this comedy routine from Put a Helmet On, my first well-known album, and they put it out. It's on YouTube. Matter of fact, Lloyd, can you put a link up right now? Yeah, and that's what people are going to see. If you go to YouTube and find that little segment right there that we're putting up here, you can hear it. The reason we're not playing it for you, because we could have, is that it's on YouTube, and it is a song from Go Fish, which is on a record label, which means if we played it right now, YouTube would flag it as copyright infringement. It would shut down this entire episode, and we'd go bonkers and sideways. So I'm giving you the link because you might want to go see it. It's a fun thing. You can share it, share the snot out of it everywhere you want to go. But I'm going to let you go get it on your own so that we don't bankrupt our filming. But what I can show you is the routine it was taken from Put a Helmet On. Many of you watching this, because you're fans, you'll recognize it. You've seen it, but I'm going to show it for those who are watching for the first time, maybe don't know me or my material. And if you never saw the full comedy segment where this song's samples came from, this is it. It's from Put a Helmet On, my most famous album, filmed in and came out in 2003. So, hey, Christmas is coming. This is my famous Christmas rant. Enjoy.
And thank God I've made it so far. And I do thank God. I'm a theist. I do believe that there is an intelligent designer. I do believe there's purpose and value in life. And I bring up God a lot in my show. You know why? Because I miss him. I miss God in my country. I miss him. You'll never know these things. You're 16 years old. You've grown up with spring break, not Easter break. You grew up with winter break, not Christmas. You don't know what I'm talking about. That's the world you got. I remember when everybody cared. I remember when people used to say things like Merry Christmas to each other. Everybody said, Merry Christmas! Hey, Merry Christmas to you, Mr. Lowenstein. You know why? Because it wasn't about a religion. It was about something as a culture we thought was so valuable that we'd all do it together, even if I disagreed with the religion behind it, because it was good for all of us instead of just me. But what do people say now? Happy holidays. See, I just say happy holidays because I don't want to say Christmas because you don't believe in Christmas, because I don't want to offend you because it's amazing. This overuse of the word offensive is driving me out of my mind. I mean, excuse me, sir, which part is more offensive, the peace on earth or the goodwill towards men rhetoric? It's such a disingenuous argument, it's not real. Oh yes, we want to say happy holidays because we don't want to leave anybody out. Really, how come there's a ton of holidays in February? Nobody ever says happy holidays in February, do they? They say what it is, happy Valentine's. Oh, do you believe in love? They don't care. Happy Valentine's is fine. Happy Hanukkah is fine. You see, that's what it's all about. In December, we've got two religious holidays, one cultural holiday, and one holiday that I'm not sure what it is, Boxing Day. Ever seen that? December 26th, Boxing Day. What does it mean? Nobody knows. Apparently, it's the day after Christmas. It must be all the fights we get in returning the junk we got the night before. Yeah, I'd like to return the fruitcake. We don't take it. Happy Boxing Day. But nobody wants to say Christmas, everything else but Christmas. Why? I know why. You do too. It's because it's got Christ in it, and after 2,000 years, he's still intimidating people. You see, when a religious person says, I'm the way, people don't want to hear it. They don't. And I want to say it to the rafters. I've even seen Christian people not say Merry Christmas. There are people in China right now, Christians, who are in jail because they had a page of the Bible. And Christians in this country won't even say Merry Christmas. It amazes me, the cowardice. That's the price you pay when you're rich and safe. Airline industry still hasn't recovered. You know why? People aren't getting on planes. They're afraid. Think of that. We have traded safety and comfort for freedom. We're going to lose this country if we talk like that. I say you got to say Merry Christmas because it is. You don't believe in it? Fine. But I have a flash for you. Christianity happens to be the religious heritage of my country, whether you like it or not. Christianity happened to be the belief system of 99.9% of the founding fathers, whether you like it or not. Every single founding father said that the Bible would be used as the fulcrum for the laws and ethics in this country, whether you like it or not. And they said it should be taught in school so kids would know where their ethics come from. So if you're not a Christian or you don't like it and you don't want Christmas celebrated, God bless you. But let me tell you something. If you think you're going to stop me from saying it because it offends you, hey, I got a flash for you. Put a helmet on.
So that is what it started out to be. And then if you went ahead and Wyatt put on that link, and he's also going to put in the comments section where you can just click on it, you'll hear the song that went along with it, and you'll hear where that rant came from. But, you know, that was a fun time. It was me really exploring the idea of political correctness. It was me really launching myself nationally as a guy that was going to stand up for Christian values, conservative values, what we would consider traditional American values. And like I said, it cost me my secular career, but I just wanted to do what I felt was more important. I wanted to find God and share him. I wanted to find strong wisdom and conservative values that I believe are what made the nation straight. That's moral values. That's religious values. You know, the founder said this country as a republic will not survive if you're not a religious people. He even said it wasn't designed for anybody other than a religious people. So I really began that process with that particular rant, and it got really famous because of that song, because of Put a Helmet On as an entity. Put a Helmet On has been my, a line that people still say towards me after all these years. You know what? I made a mistake. I didn't use Put a Helmet On as a tagline throughout the rest of my albums. I think I might have done it in Conservative Unleashed once, but I felt like, well, nobody knows the context of what this means, and it was my fault. I should have kept the line. It was, and I guess I could rekindle it if I wanted to, because it was a line that stuck with people, and it was mine. It was something I created, so I could have my own tagline that went along with being me. So maybe I'll try to return it to the 8th album if God allows me to do one. I did the 7th, and it's done. It just hasn't been edited yet, but we're getting there. And, like I told you guys, this whole new year of 2025 is going to be a revamping of Brad Sign Has Issues. We're going to try to have the set is going to be a little bit different behind me. Wyatt is going to be revealed for the first time, but he will then be able to interact side by side as we talk and laugh and joke and try to talk about the world as we know it and try to be of some kind of worth and inspiration, you all watching. We're also going to be having, I think, some more rant style stuff that we're going to try to pre-record to make it a little bit more effective, make it more fun, more creative, more like a TV show, and see if we can really build this podcast into something that is growing, and people want to be on it, and people want to watch it, and people want to share it, and people kind of want to grab their popcorn and come on Monday nights and watch it. And of course, if it really starts doing well, we'll probably do it, Wyatt, more than once. We might not just do Mondays. We might do Mondays and Wednesdays. We might do Mondays and Fridays. I don't know. We might do all 5 days a week if we ever get to a place where we can afford that. But you know what? I think people are moved by some of the things we say. I think the guests have been amazing. As a matter of fact, I just recorded, and this is not going to be in sync when this man shows up, but I just recorded an interview with Daniel Baldwin, who's one of the Baldwin brothers. Have you ever heard of Stephen Baldwin, Wyatt?
I absolutely have.
What's he been in that you've heard?
I haven't the foggiest
Well,
idea.
his most famous movie he was in was called Usual Suspects. Have you ever heard of Billy Baldwin?
No.
Okay, he was also in a lot of movies. And there was one other Baldwin named Alec Baldwin. You ever heard of him?
Oh, I love Alec Baldwin.
Okay, well, he is the most famous and the richest of all the Baldwin brothers.
Yeah.
But all four of them made a living and have made a living as actors. And Daniel Baldwin is who I just interviewed, who I was in the movie Christmas with a capital C with, which you saw. Remember the bad guy in Christmas with a capital C?
No.
Yeah, I was hoping not, because I didn't want it to have some flow to it.
We watched that movie once when it came out, and then never again. How on earth am I supposed to remember him?
You know, I just thought that anything your dad was in would just be burned.
I remember you just fine. It's just all the other extras I didn't notice anything.
Well, he wasn't an extra. He was a co-star.
To me, he was, because I don't remember him at all.
Nevertheless, Daniel is who I just interviewed. And this rant from Christmas with a capital C ended up being the movie Christmas with a capital C. And so there's a scene in this movie. There's two scenes specifically that I wanted to demonstrate. One, you're not going to see right now. You're going to see it in the interview with Daniel because it's with him and me in the same scene. So we're going to play it then, right before we finish up with Daniel, so you get to see a clip from this movie. But I'm going to show it to you guys now since Christmas is coming up soon. And the reason I'm bringing it up is it's a sweet little moment where I tried to teach a couple kids about the gospel and about the nativity and about Christ coming to earth in a Christmas movie, in a fun little scene where I got to play, and it was a fun scene. But I was nominated, believe it or not, from Ted. Holy smoke! I just completely blanked on the name. But I was nominated for an award, Movie Guide Awards, and I was nominated for Best Scene or Best Inspirational Scene, believe it or not. Cool. I didn't win, Wyatt. I failed miserably, but I was nominated for a scene.
I mean, that's still more than what most people can say.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I wanted to show that. Now, here's the thing. It was me starting the scene, and then they clip over to another scene taking place simultaneously. Then they come back to me, and I'm doing it. So I had Wyatt try to clip the three scenes together, so it might be a little weird or jumpy, but that's why, because we clipped out the stuff in between where it was a whole different scene which you would have no context for. But anyways, it was something I thought you might enjoy that I was in. Some of you may have seen the movie. You can go to PureFlix streaming, I think, to see it, and you probably can buy it online on Amazon if you want to get the DVD or to download or whatever. I'm sure you can get it if you want to. It's a cool movie, actually. It's pretty, and it was shot in Seward, Alaska, so incredible landscape. But anyways, with Christmas coming up, I just thought you might enjoy this beautiful little moment that I got to be a part of in the movie Christmas with a capital C. So, guys, Merry Christmas. Enjoy this.
Oh, good. You're not doing anything.
Yes, I am.
Uncle Gray's helping rehearse for the Christmas program. You can be the audience.
And if I'm not mistaken, you're supposed to be across country, which is why I got trapped babysitting.
I'm not a baby.
Well, you're my baby. You're my baby.
It's a practice run for the Christmas Cup, so I'm not entering.
What?
No one's gonna miss me.
Your dad know about this?
Dad's too worried about the people trying to rename it the Holiday Cup to even notice.
Hi. Is Cody here? Cody! It's a girl. How come you're not at practice?
I'm not entering the cup.
Why not?
Hey, don't let all the heat out, boy. Invite her in.
Maybe she doesn't want to come in.
Hey, I'll come in.
Hey.
Hi, I'm Michaela. Tonight, I'm playing the part of the angel, Sienna. playing Sienna. Our audience just doubled. Come sit down, we're doing a show.
No. Kayla, she doesn't want to stay for the show.
Did you ask her?
It's the same boring old program we go to over and over every year.
I'm sorry, did you say the same boring old program? Well, I am offended, sir, that you could ever believe two fine performers like Michaela and myself could ever deliver the same boring old program.
You're gonna change the story then?
I don't have to change the story. Don't you get it? The Christmas story is the greatest story of all time. The Christmas story is none like any other. It's got it all. It's got intrigue. It's got scandal. It's got surprise. So I'll tell you what, Mr. Know-It-All, why don't you two sit there, hang on to your long johns, and observe the masters at work. Me. You. Okay, action. In a world where there was no television, or Xbox, or texting, one girl is about to experience the greatest challenge of her life. Look at me, I'm just a girl trying not to step anywhere onto scorpions because I have no socks.
Do not be afraid. You have found favor with God. You will give birth to a child and call his name Jesus.
Is that right? Well, what in the world would she say? Actually, I'm not really good with this because, you see, I'm suddenly, like, pregnant without explanation, which means my fiancé can kind of, like, officially stone me, which completely ruins my makeup. And my BFFs will, like, never speak to me again, so I really don't see that as God's favorite.
She didn't say that.
No, that's what a girl today would have said. What she actually said was, "Let it be done to me, as thou hast said." Because in Israel, they always spoke with an English accent. Of course, if she did say that, it was a little bit more like, "Go ahead, make my baby."
You don't have to stay.
I'm good.
Act 2. Matter of fact, we're missing somebody I know. Joseph. Stand right here. Perfectly. Try to look handsome for once. Once they arrive, what happens? They meet up with crazy people. Joe, what do you two want?
Well, like the hundreds of other people here, we want a room.
Please, I'm having a baby right now.
Yeah, like I haven't heard that. I'll tell you what, you two can go into the barn. And they do. Mary is rushed off to have her baby. But she does it off stage, so it's kind of icky. And she possibly did it alone because it would have made Joseph ceremonially unclean, which makes Mary not only a saint, but he's kind of reaching action figure status in my book. Come here. No, look. Cynical audience is getting out of hand. Let's show them. Come on. God of the universe decides to enter our domain in the most fragile form. Can I have him?
Just a baby.
That a human can take. Wow. Here. I'm gonna let you be Mary for a little bit. People expected a political messiah. Oh. Good thing they didn't have popcorn back then. But what did they get? God, instead of coming down, angels don't laugh. Instead of God coming down miraculously and freaking him out, he humbled himself and he became God with us. And he began to heal humanity by loving them one heart at a time. The end. Take your bow, son. And so, Michaela, playing the angel. Joseph, pathetically playing Joseph. And me as the donkey. Thank you. Take your bows, take your bows. You were a wonderful angel, and you were wonderful. Now,
Well, what more can I say? But that was fun because it was the first time, White, that I was really kind of cut loose. It was completely improvised for the most part. I mean, some of the words were written, of course, but so much of that movie, White, I improvised so much of it. There's one scene in that movie in a coffee house where I go off on a tangent, and Daniel's in that scene too, and it was completely, for the most part, improvised. It came from my comedy and also me writing this whole scene about why we should say Merry Christmas and why Christmas matters. And it was all improvised. So anyway, it's a movie you might guys want to look up. You may not. I don't know. It's up to you. But Wyatt, as we get ready to speak to little Ricky, Keith Thibodeaux, who, by the way, is all grown up. He's a much grown up, sophisticated.
So now he's just Ricky.
He's just big Ricky. Huge Ricky now. Gigantic
Massive
Ricky.
Ricky.
He is gigantic Ricky now. They might even call him Big Richard. I don't know. But I do know this. He's a Christ follower now. He's a drummer. He's been in a band for many years. And is an interesting guy. And so I just thought you guys would enjoy him and his life, his story, what he's gone through, and even some stories with being on I Love Lucy and Fred Mertz and Ricky Ricardo, all those guys. But Wyatt, as we get ready to bring up Keith Thibodeaux and talk to him, as we get ready to kind of really do the last episode before Christmas, and then I guess that'll give us sort of that in-between week between that and New Year's before really we move into the next season in Brad's Son Has Issues, where you're going to be part of it now, son. You're going to be seen now, and we're just kind of growing up as a podcast and hopefully as a production. Do you have anything you'd want to say to all of these people that we've had such wonderful fun with and joked with and talked about over the years, and maybe as Christmas is coming to their house, anything you'd want to talk to or leave with our people?
No, not really.
Perfect.
I'm still trying to internally debate that whole improv. Not improv. Look! You gave me no warning for this, man. I'm trying here, but I'm running the show back here, and then all of a sudden I hear, "Hey, do you want to have an inner monologue?"
I've got to. Okay, so I gave you a chance to give them a little Christmas spirit. Just some sweet little
There's a reason
send
I've
off
never been seen on camera now.
where you could show Wyatt's heart to all these wonderful people who've been so loyal to us. And you literally came on and said, nah, I
got nothing. What do you want me to say? Honestly.
I love it. That is exactly what you guys deserve from Wyatt. It's the reason.
Don't say that.
It's the reason why he's my sidekick.
Don't say
it's
that.
the reason why he's my son. It's the reason why he is my producer. So let me leave you guys with this before we go to Keith. I do want to say I'm grateful. I'm grateful for Christmas. I'm grateful that there was a moment in human history where a guy came onto earth and was recorded who was predicted, prophesied in the Torah, the Jewish testament of the law, and what their life they believed was going to be and what God was going to do in their midst, and that a Messiah would come and would complete the law so they could know God perfectly forever. And then Jesus showed up, and he's real. He's a historical figure that nobody denies existed. And he was hated by many of the Jewish folks who believed that he was a false prophet and he was trying to claim the Messiahship, and he didn't deserve it. And there were those who said, no, he's here. We've seen him. And he did miraculous things. They're like, how can a guy do miraculous things if he's not from God? And then he's crucified. He dies. God dies. It's the most fascinating, crazy story because it was a real man that died, crucified, and then rose again. And people said, we've seen him. God is back. He's our Messiah is here. And then he says, now the Gentiles. I mean, here's a belief system that brought the Jews and the Gentiles together as one. This isn't the Jewish story. It's not the Gentile story. It's the human story of God revealing himself to us. And that's what Christmas represents. People have tried to say that it's become too commercialized, and it has. People have tried to say that, it's some of it came from pagan belief systems or traditions, and we just co-opted it. And as I said in the last couple of weeks, it's ours. This Christmas tree is ours because the trees are gods, not pagans, and the stars are gods, not pagans. And wreaths and ivies and mistletoe. I don't care if a pagan worshiped that or used that in some mystical spells. They're gods. They co-opted it. They misused it. They're the ones that have tried to decide it's theirs and they can give it power and authority that it never deserved, because God said, don't worship my creation, be grateful for it, but worship me. So it's all ours. And if we truly desire to give it significance, Christ-like significance, to remind us that he lives forever, that he is the branches, he is the vine, he is the truth, he is everlasting, he is green and alive in the winter and in the cold. He is the completion of the sacrifice. He is the Lamb, and he has done the work for us. And that's what we are celebrating this week. God is real. He showed himself, and he came to be with us so that we could know our Heavenly Father forever, not because we deserve it, but because of his gift to us. That's what Christmas is for. I'm thankful that this podcast is helpful and beneficial to some of you. You are the ones that said, Brad, we like what you say, and we'd like you to keep doing it. I said, if you want that, I'll keep going if you think there's some value here. And you said so, and you helped me. And here we are, and it's growing, it's growing, it's growing. And some of the guests that God has allowed me to speak to and bring on that I hope have been inspiring to you, I'm so grateful and humbled that they would allow me to speak with them. And I'm so grateful for my son, Wyatt, who took it upon himself to run this podcast and let me joke with him and make fun of him. And he didn't care. He's so mature and able to take a joke, and has tried to learn to do this so that we could do it together. And that God gave him a dry, unique, intelligent, quick-witted, wonderful sense of humor that he adds to this podcast, and it couldn't exist. And it would not be nearly what it is becoming and has become without him. That my son and I could do this together is just, I am so grateful and shocked and so humbled that God would give me this opportunity. And can't wait till next year where he gets to be an even more part of this thing as someone who's interacting with us and still involved in the production and the post-production of it. But Merry Christmas, son. I love you. And I'm glad we were able to do this together. So thanks for being part of it. And thanks for being with me on this Christmas edition. And I'm grateful for you, son. I'm grateful that you're here with me on this Christmas week.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. And so now, as you guys get ready to snuggle up and see a very interesting interview with little Ricky, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have fun with this, and I hope it inspires you, and I hope and pray you know the living Christ, that you accept him into your heart, and that he becomes your Savior and gives you the completeness and the peace that only he can bring. Merry Christmas, all you folks, and enjoy this interview with little Ricky, all grown up, Keith Thibodeaux. How do you do, my friend?
Hey man, I'm good. Good pronunciation. That's good.
Yeah, I got it.
Thibodeaux, yeah.
All right, nice. Well, I tried to do a little bit of background on you, but I assumed because it said you from Louisiana. I see Thibodeaux goes, this dude's got to be a Cajun. Are you Cajun?
Yeah, born in Lafayette, from Breaux Bridge area.
And so that's an interesting culture, to say the least. I did a lot of comedy specials back in the 90s when everybody had a comedy special, and A&E had a bunch of them. They had Caroline's Comedy Hour, they had Comedy
Yeah.
on the Road, and
Yeah.
even at the Improv and things like that. I don't know if you ever paid attention to any of the stand-up stuff, but
Hmm.
I shot Comedy on the Road, and they would shoot different comics at the same thing, and then they would cobble it together when they showed it. And here's a guy from Des Moines, here's a guy from New York, whatever. Anyways, they shot it in New Orleans. So it was called Storyville. I don't know if it was a club. I think it was a brothel at one time, but then again, it was New Orleans. So I pretty much think everything was a brothel at one point.
Yeah, probably.
But it was called Storyville, and John Biner was guest host. Anyways,
Yeah.
that's where I shot that, and it was
Yeah.
my one sort of foray into Louisiana. Though I did shoot a movie in Jacksonville, Mississippi, and it looks as though you've ended up in Mississippi. So well done, well traveled. Well, Keith, I have a dilemma, and here's what it is. I've always assumed that people that have any kind of notoriety and have done lots of interviews, which clearly I'm sure you have done, have to grapple with the fact that you have been asked the same question 257,719 times. And I always try to see, can I figure out a way? Is it possible I can find a question? This poor guy has never had to be asked about maybe the most iconic part of your life only because of what it happened to connect to that you can't escape, in that
Hmm.
you were in I Love Lucy, which started sitcoms for the most part. So, as much as I'm going to search for hopefully something that will make you go, well done, you found one I haven't heard, I do have to be kind enough to my audience who maybe have never seen you interviewed to also talk about and probably reiterate questions you've been asked a million times. But my goodness, I guess if you have to be attached to a sitcom, bravo, well played. I don't know if you can get more iconic than
Yeah.
I Love Lucy. So let me ask the first question like this. What, of all the interviews you've had, is the one question about you being Little Ricky on I Love Lucy you are most sick of answering? Let's start it like that.
Okay. I would probably think it would be, were you really Lucy's son?
Oh.
And I'd have to say no.
That was tricky, though. I don't know what it is about. Well, first off, you kind of resemble Desi Arnaz, dark
Mhm.
hair. You played percussion. It's like
Mhm.
this is a little too close to the bone here that you aren't
Yeah.
connected to this guy. And they made an episode in that time frame where she was pregnant and had kids. And of course, that was also the infancy of television. So people maybe aren't as sophisticated as to what's going on or how they hide a pregnancy during filming, perhaps if they need to.
Mhm.
So I guess there's no reason to really hold people as though they're ignorant because they kind of played it up like you were, and they didn't realize, that you were playing a part. But obviously, you weren't their son. But
Mhm.
I'm guessing that the relationship remained fairly connected and pretty positive, I guess, I mean, I'm assuming y'all stayed in touch all those years.
The reason why I Love Lucy and the connection with I Love Lucy and Little Ricky and their real son, Desi Arnaz Jr., I mean, he was like born the same day Little Ricky was introduced into the television show.
Oh,
So, and then there were a couple of twins that played the infant. And then as they were looking to expand scripts and ideas for storylines, they got me, who I happened to be a professional drummer when I was younger. So I was doing like the Horace Heights show, big band era variety show before the I Love Lucy show. And he billed me as pound for pound the greatest drummer around. And so the fact that I played percussion, drums, the fact that I looked like Desi, I was signed to a 7-year contract with him. But people think I'm their real son because of the connection of Little Ricky and their own birth. And so people, there's so many parallels between me and their real son. He played drums, I played drums. He was an actor, I was an actor. But it's all the fact that I didn't get credit on the show as Keith Thibodeaux or any name for that matter.
You didn't
So
have a
there was
credit?
there was no credit. So it was Lucy Ball, Desi Arnaz, William Frawley, Vivian Vance, and that's it. And so on the comedy hours, they expanded the credits to be Lucy Ball, Desi Arnaz, William Frawley, Vivian Vance, and of course Little Ricky. And that was it. So I think they wanted the public to believe that I was their real son. Because in that day and age, it was all about impressions and what people think and getting that cool storyline.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, I obviously we will talk about that, but we're also going to talk about your life since then and the impact it's had, and obviously what is singly the most important part of your life, which I think I can guess. And we're going to get to that.
absolutely.
But
Yeah, yeah.
but it would be ridiculous not to spend time on this idea of I Love Lucy. I know you're sick of it, but for people who haven't heard you, it is unique. There's been lots of television shows in American history, but that is so iconic that it really has kind of its own. It's almost like it has its own place in the history of television that is different. I mean, maybe The Honeymooners is in that world, but even then, I don't think people talk about watching reruns of The Honeymooners like they do I Love Lucy. That thing has never been off the air. I mean,
Right.
that's ridiculous.
That's
And
right. Yeah.
was it a 3-camera shoot for sitcoms? They even
Yep.
created the format.
Yep. 3
So,
cameras.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, they did it from whole cloth. They created a
Yeah.
genre.
Yeah,
So
they
that
did.
it deserves to be given recognition, and you were on that thing. But I want to delve into that, Keith. But before that, I do want to spend a little bit of time about what got you there, because it also is kind of interesting and probably is overlooked, maybe a bit. I don't know. Like I said, you've been around so long, you've had so many interviews, maybe they've covered every angle of your life. But you were with an orchestra, yes, at 3
Yeah.
playing drum. Either you were just some novelty that could play, do 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 do, or you were a prodigy of some kind, or at least highly skilled beyond your years to be in an
Mhm.
orchestra. And like I said, unless it was some novelty thing they were using you for. So tell me, what in the world, what would you're a drummer all your life, so how
Yeah.
would you rank yourself at that time? Would you say you were average if you really put it together as far as what a drum, or do you believe you were kind of a prodigy?
I think I hate to use the word prodigy, but I would lean on that because my earliest memory in life was playing the drums on trash cans in the backyard of my house and playing drums and wanting drums. And when I got the part on the Horsehide Show, the Horsehide Show was a big band, very popular show in the 50s, just before the Lucy Show, right around that same time. So when I was 3, 4 years old, I joined his show, and we did one night stands across the nation in Canada, playing these shows. People like Lionel Hampton, the jazz great, Art Carney, who was on the Honeymooners. Horace Hyde discovered him. Al Hurt was the first trumpet in his band. So it was a big, very popular band at that time, and it, it it was just something I grew up on. I heard radio, and I would go to parades and listen to drummers playing parades and things, and it was just this innate rhythm that I had that was peculiar for a kid to have.
Mm.
So I was able to pick up multiple types of rhythms and breaks, and know when the break was going to be, and fill in there when it needed to be, or add a rhythm on top of a rhythm. All of that at a young age.
Yeah. Well, what clearly way young age if you were playing at 3, so that means you had to start at 2 or something, or 1. I don't know. That's
It
pretty.
was like two. It was
Yeah.
like two.
Yeah.
I mean,
My son, the one that just set up the camera for you, also is a drummer and played, and also my wife would sit him in front of the TV, let's say, to watch some show. I don't remember what it was, but it had something to do with the rhythm. And she said he used to like grab cups or things and set them up in front of him before the show. And then suddenly he was playing drums. He's like, what is going on? And could replicate it. So that's when he must be a drummer. And anyways, he has been his whole life. He's really good. He can read it and whatever. But my point was, I only referenced that to say there must be something instinctual about a percussionist, because we didn't teach him to do, he just somehow something made him say, I want to play this, what I hear in my head on on these things. I mean, I didn't make that happen. So there must be something innate in your character that simply is drawn to that. And I don't know if that is the same for all instruments. Is somebody just drawn to guitar? Somebody, we certainly have heard a lot about the pianist, the kid that hears something and he plays it. It's like he's like a savant or something. So those two instruments, I think, are maybe I've heard more about the young kid picking it up immediately than a trumpet or something. But anyways, I was just curious if where you felt, you as someone who certainly would know drummers now and could evaluate drummers, if how you would try to picture yourself if you were to evaluate this kid comes in at 3 to your studio and go, holy smoke, this dude's we can move to the advanced stuff right off the bat, or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've always had rhythm in me. It's like this clock inside of me.
Yeah.
And I look at some clips of me on the I Love Lucy show playing with the Dixieland band, and I actually look at it from where I am now, like your question is. I mean, how would you rate this? Well, I mean, I'm listening to this, and it's like, it sounds like a adult drummer playing when I close my eyes. I mean, the rhythm, the feel is probably the biggest thing, and the ability to technically bring the feel out with different, rhythms and things.
And here's, I think, something that may be frustrating for a professional musician or not, I don't know. My only reference point, Keith, is I was a professional sleight of hand magician before I became a comedian. So with cards, coin, I mean, it's a manipulative art form that is hard, and you have to work at it and whatnot. But the reason I bring that up is because magic, sleight of hand, that performance art is a little bit odd, because you can walk into a magic shop and buy these sort of tricks that work themselves, right? And so you can look kind of magical, and I don't know how that did, because it's more of a mechanical thing, or you can have trick cards that do things that replicate sleight of hand, but it's not. So here's what I was getting at. If I've worked years and years to perfect a particular sleight of hand skill set, and I do it, the weird thing about magic is if I did it right, you have no reference point that I did anything hard, because my point is to hide it. I didn't do anything, just a magical thing happened.
Sure.
And so then here comes a guy behind me and he does some trick with a fake deck. You're equally blown away because you still don't know how it's done. But I'm looking at it going, that's cheating.
Yeah.
You don't know what he just did, but you could do that in 3 minutes. What I just did that you don't even get took me 3 years. So and there's no way I can describe that, because people don't have any reason to know how sleight of hand works. So I'm wondering about musicians and the way they evaluate their art, because I think to myself, what is the most important thing about being a great drummer? Is it because you're fancy, because you're Neil Peart and you are ridiculous? Is it because you're Ringo and you are so, it's just simple, but exactly simple, perfect? I mean, different styles, but necessary for the band that they were involved with to help it accomplish itself. So what, as a professional, would you say is the most important thing a drummer needs to really make the rest of the band feel comfortable, we got the right guy doing the meter.
Yeah. Well, if you're playing with a band, you're not playing a solo. So a solo is a whole different thing. If you're playing with a band, you're playing with the band, and you're listening to the different instruments, particularly in the drummer's case, the bass and the lead guitar, if it's a rock guitar or whatever. You're playing off other musicians, you're listening to them, you're establishing a groove, you know what the groove is, and you're basically locking in. That's the point, to lock in with the others. And the musicians, good musicians are hardest on themselves. I mean, we recognize you're good, but it's like when you think you could have done it better, it's like that golf game where, oh man, but it's particularly interesting because you never know when you're going to do something that might be cool that you didn't even think about doing, but it happened, and it goes, oh, that sounds great. How did I do that? That's not as bad as I thought it was.
Right.
And then this is interesting too. When you have a particularly good night as a musician, my experience has been that I think very well of myself, like fulfilled. But then if I don't have a good night, then it's like I'm down on myself. But here's the funny thing about it. The funny thing about it is that on the nights that I think I do bad, there's more people that come up and say, "Man, that was awesome, man." And I'm going, "Great, I'm glad it came out like that,"
Yeah. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's an odd thing. So I think that it's the effort behind it. If you're struggling with something and you're really trying hard, and you're good at what you do, that translates to the audience, and they see that, and they hear that.
I've worked
I
with
don't know
a
if that
lot.
makes sense or
No,
not.
no, it does. On two levels. One, whenever I have virtually every time I've ever videotaped myself, let's say comedy set, and I do it and I go, wow, I nailed that. I killed it. Oh, that was what I wanted. And then I will watch it back and I go, oh, it's not quite as good as I thought. Why is this like that?
I
And
know.
then another time I'm like, oh man, I wasn't on. I couldn't get there. I just
Yeah,
was in my head. Then I watch
yeah,
and go, oh, that was actually a lot better than I felt when I was there doing it. I
exactly,
felt off, but somehow
exactly.
they saw it. So maybe that's your skill set, overcoming uh, the moment and filling in the gaps, and you don't
Yeah,
even know it. But
yeah,
it always seems odd that when I think I nailed it, it's never quite as good as I thought. And when I don't, I feel like it was much better than I thought. And maybe that is that temperament of the musician, the artist, who's never satisfied, which is the only way you can be great, is to never be satisfied.
yeah,
So you always have another step to take to get to the place you think you need to be the
yeah,
perfect musician,
yeah,
artist that you'll never be.
yeah. That's right. You'll never get there. I mean, you just can't get to the perfection state. We're
Yeah.
not in heaven yet.
No. Well, that's it. That's what I'm getting at, is that there's beauty in the fact that you can't reach the place you're searching for. You want to
Mhm.
be the best musician, you want to kill it, you want to nail it, but because you never quite can, there's
Mhm.
an inspiration that continues to drive you, because otherwise, if you felt like I can do this without thinking, it loses its magic.
Right.
This isn't
That's
fun
right.
anymore. It's not fun anymore. It's a job. I didn't want a job. I wanted to be an artist where I never knew what was happening, like in jazz. I don't know where this is going. That's the fun. I'm on a
Yeah.
tightrope. I got no net. This is why I signed up to be this guy.
That's
I mean,
great, man. I love
yeah.
that. Yeah,
Uh,
that's true.
well, in comedy's that way because there's nowhere to go. If you're eating it, there's
Oh,
nowhere to
yeah.
go. There's nowhere to
Can
hide.
imagine. Yeah.
But no, but if you are off groove if you're off time as a drummer, there's nowhere to hide either. I mean, you said earlier about kind of, you didn't use this word, but I know it's a phrase they use, of being in the pocket.
Yeah.
Um, Do you so is the drummer's job to lock down the tempo and everybody's supposed to follow him, and then if they start getting sideways, I ain't moving, guys. So when you need to get back, you know where the compass is. Or is there ever a time when the lead guitar or the bass begins to go to a little bit different tempo or and you'll actually try to maybe catch up to make it sound cohesive, or is your
Hmm.
job to say, I ain't moving? So if you guys are going to go all over the place, I'm staying right here. I mean,
Yeah.
what's your role?
I mean, in the days before the click and things like that, which they use the click tracks, because people use tracks, and you got to stay with the click. And in your recording studio, you're on the click. Before all that, it was basically the drummer setting the tone with the bass, or the tone of the rhythm and the pocket and the timing and all that. But then you had this energy that would happen in those days, and I would tend to feed up. You know what I'm saying? Like just the energy of it. And if you listen to records that were rock albums back in the 70s, 60s, you'll hear that. You'll hear just a slight edge on getting quicker in some area and parts of the song. So you want to stay together wherever you are. You want to stay together. In jazz, it's easier to nowadays because you don't play necessarily a click to straight jazz stuff. You're out there on the rope, the tightrope, and you're ad libbing and you're coming up with things and playing off one another. And so it's easier to explore musicality in that format, like that. But with a click, I mean, you're basically trying to play on top of the click and trying to make it feel as normal as possible. Not robotic.
Yes, well, so with this AI and all this stuff, I mean,
Oh,
it,
hate AI.
I know, but here's the thing: the problem with it is it's really good.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah,
really
no
good,
doubt.
and I think it's kind of like people that are going back to vinyl records. There's a warmth to this that you cannot get digitally, even though digitally is cleaner. It's flawless,
Yep.
but you're having a needle dragging over a vinyl piece of material, very archaic,
Yeah.
obviously, if you think about it in that regard. But it's very organic. It's like actual material being touched like a human would touch. And like the first stick with the first log that was said, hey, this is a cool sound. That's humans.
Yeah.
We make things out of nothing. We procreate. That's what God
Yeah.
told us.
That's
I'm giving
good.
you this land. I'm giving you this earth. You like those stars. You want to go look at them, figure out a way to build a telescope so you can look better. You want to look at the small stuff, make a microscope. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I'll let you
Yeah.
look at all my stuff. I'll let you create stuff. I'll give you all the minerals, all the materials you need, but you're gonna have to figure it out. I
Yeah.
ain't doing this for you.
Yeah.
When he created the Garden of Eden, he didn't make him a hammock. He said, "Get to work now. Tend to the garden, man. Get to work."
Yeah, that's right.
So I think that the musician is so unique
Yeah.
in that there's something about music that's as a couple believers, I think it's because it's sacred. I think God uses music in a way that touches us in our soul in a way that's unique than other
Hmm.
forms of art, even though you can be touched by a beautiful soliloquy of a Shakespeare or watch a drama and be touched because you're watching a story unfold that you can connect to, that you really have. So those are beautiful moments of touching your emotions. But nobody said, I'm a comic. Nobody said hears me do a joke if they're a fan and go, "Oh, honey, listen, that's our joke." Nobody ever does that. Nobody ever says, "Hey, that's our line from Back to the Future." Nobody ever says that, but they'll say that's my song, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's something about song. You play it, you hear it, and instantly it's 1974. I'm in the back of my car driving to the
Yep.
drive-in for the first time in my life. My dad was letting me go. It was an R-rated movie. I couldn't believe whatever that thing is.
Yep.
Music does
Yeah.
something to your soul unlike anything else. What is that, Keith?
Yeah.
What is it?
Man, it's the fabric of life. It's how we remember smells and things like that. It's part of God put music into us, and the appreciation of it, for a reason, you know, and that's to glorify Him with it.
Yes.
That's the ultimate reason for it. But it's also for, you know, I mean, I love classical music. I love, you know, I love to hear Mozart and you know, I mean, that stuff's fantastic, you know, that kind of thing that they came up with in what, you know, the 1600s or whatever. And so to remember a song, it's just like you say. I mean, everybody knows when they heard that song, they know your mind goes back and there's it's almost like the song coupled with you in that moment in time, and you remember that. And it's like a place on a calendar that you can refer to.
Do you think that musicians write songs, or do you think the songs were already there and they just find it?
I think the effort to write a song normally is a process. But I think once you do that, you step out in faith, the inspiration can be there. And God can drop that in you, or you know, that inspiration can be formed in you, wherever it's coming from.
I've done, and again, it's not exactly the same, but similar. We're in the show business, right? I've done material, a joke or something that I think is funny, and it's something that people like, and it's, you know, you have certain things that you get known for, or people remember and they like. But something happens over time is that you do it enough to where you can depend on it. You know, it works, right? I mean, it's a classic. It's like if you're a musician and you're in a band and you have hits, you know what's going to happen when you play your hit. They're going to love it and scream, and that's what they came for. But
Mhm.
there comes a point sometimes when you almost, well, not almost, you almost forget writing it. It's almost like this isn't even mine. I don't even know where this
Yeah.
came from. I know I wrote it, but now it just feels like it was kind of already there, and I
Yeah.
just tuned it in. It was out there, and I had a radio, and oh, there is something. Let's
Yeah.
stay here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wondered if musicians, I'm guessing you couldn't have been in this business as long and not have written some songs. I just wondered if musicians, there comes a time when you either are almost forget the inspiration of it, or it just was handed to you. And the most notable one that I remember in the many interviews I've listened to was Paul McCartney in Yesterday, which is the most covered pop tune in history. And he said it was a dream. I don't even know what happened. I woke up, I heard this thing, I heard this rhythm, I heard this melody. I just gave it some funny words just so I could keep the melody locked down.
Uh-huh.
And he kept going around. Is this somebody's song? Because he's like it makes too much sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it
Mm-hmm.
must be a song I heard, because it's all just been handed to me. So that to me is like a gift. Like, I
Yeah.
believe that all truth is God's truth, and I believe that all giftedness and art is God's,
Mm-hmm.
even if you don't acknowledge them.
Yeah. I mean, like what you were asking about, where did it come from? For instance, you know, I have written songs in the past, and then I guess about 10 or 15 years ago, I would play my guitar. I could play guitar, bass, little piano, mostly drums, but you can't you can't really write on a set of drums, you know?
Yeah.
So you have to know how to play an instrument. So I was just, I was in Phoenix with our grandson and granddaughter, and I was out sitting by their pool, and I picked up his little guitar that he's learning the guitar. And it's just a little bitty guitar. And I said, well, I'll just pick this up because I hadn't picked up a guitar in like 10 or 15 years. And I just started just playing around and just doing this and that and little chord. And it's like this little melody just started coming up. And I wasn't really working to get I wasn't working to write a song. And that's the point. And I ended up writing a song, and it's going to be on our new record, David and the Giants, that should be out in January.
Oh, nice.
And so that song came from that. And then once that song came, then I wrote another song, and that's going to be on the album. Then I wrote another song, and that's going to be on the album, and I sang it. So it was one of those things where not picking up a guitar in 10 or 15 years and just not wanting to pick up a guitar because it was like it was a process. it's like, I don't know if I want to do this.
Mm.
I mean, I'm not mainly a songwriter, but I have written songs. And it's funny how that little guitar of my grandson just spurred that moment on to create something that is going to be on our album.
No, that's very cool. You've had this band for quite a few years, yes? Maybe from the 60s or something?
Yeah, they started in 66 or 67, and then I joined them in 69.
Hmm.
And when I was 19 years old, and then we were a secular band. And then in 74, I became a Christian, and I left and came back in 79, and we revisited the David and the Giants band, but we were a Christian band then because everybody else had come to the Lord. I witnessed to a couple of the guys in the band about the Lord, and David, the lead guitar player, he came to faith in the Lord, was born again. His brothers came to the Lord, were born again. We always had that name, David and the Giants, even before we came to the Lord.
Hmm.
So it's like, and we were trying to get rid of the name as a secular band because it was like, oh, I mean, what's this? It's kind of a Bible thing.
Yeah.
We didn't know that God had already, put in his future calendar that we were going to be a Christian band.
Wow.
So that's how that kind of came about.
Well, I wanted to talk about that and some of the other things you're doing now, and certainly your faith journey. And I would definitely want to go into that because it's the key to life,
Yeah.
and certainly your life,
Yep.
but life in general. If Jesus Christ is who he said he was, there's not a more important story in human history. It needs to be talked about because
Yeah,
it
for
changed the
sure.
world. And we will. Well, I'm sure that will be the culmination of our conversation. But before we get too far out there, again, I can't do a disservice to my people and not at least spend some time back in that moment of I Love Lucy world of yours, simply because you are cursed with having to have been the guy that played the son and was part of that experience. And people are
Yep.
going to be interested because
Yep.
A, you're the last one left, but B, it's just it's interesting because most people will never have done what you did. Not that you, I mean, maybe take credit for it. It sounds like your dad was the guy that kind of saw a casting call or something and put you out there and boom, you did it. I want to talk about it. And again, if I get fortunate to find an angle that you've never been asked, that's my goal. See if I can do it. I don't know, but you get cast in this incredible sitcom. At the time, you're so young. I don't even, were you familiar? It was '50s, so TV was fairly new. Did you even know what TV was, or is that, or was it even that was like a brand new novelty to you?
Yeah, I remember TV. The earliest memory, oddly enough, is Liberace's show on
Mm.
television. So here's this guy playing this piano with this candle bra thing, and that was like my first memory of that kind of stuff. And then I think Tugboat Annie, something like that. They had a series, and I remember seeing that. But I mean, before the I Love Lucy show, I was a musician.
Yeah.
So I wasn't an actor. So it was something that I had to learn to do and to perform and to hit my spot, you know, for the three cameras and make sure the lighting was all right, getting my lights. Um, so it was, Little Ricky, the whole Little Ricky thing. I look at it in a human kind of way, as the child is the father, or the child is the father to the man, or you know what I mean? Like your younger self
Mm.
is who you're established as. And I tried to
Yes.
run away. I tried to run away from the Little Ricky, the whole acting thing, and just because of other things that happened in my life. But now, I have embraced that because it's almost like it used to be, like you said, a curse, in a way. And sometimes it does kind of get on my nerves sometimes, some things, but um now it's more like a blessing.
Mhm.
It's like God works all things out for good, and he uses all things. He can work he can work it out for good.
Mhm.
Bad things, good things that happen to you. I mean, obviously there are some bad things that happen to people that you don't really want to embrace, but you can forgive and forget in those ways. But my parents, I come from a broken home, so that was part of my um, you know, business that I just wanted to forget the whole Hollywood scene and I didn't want to always be known as Little Ricky, just Little Ricky. It's like there's more to me than just Little Ricky.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. But now I look at it in a better
Yeah, and
place.
again, I mean, I don't think anybody could fault you because here's what's odd about it, I guess, is you were 5 or 6 or whatever, however many years you were on the show. But let's
Mhm,
start at the beginning. So I think 5. You're a 5-year-old little boy,
mhm,
and you're on the show that again were 3 channels at that time, and there wasn't a lot to choose from. So that was probably watched by 50 million people. I mean,
mhm.
ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
It can't happen again because uh, we don't have that kind of a scenario. We have so many options with the internet and whatever.
mhm.
So you had a thing that you became famous, and I'm sure you went out doing stuff with your parents or whatnot, and people, oh, it's happening, and you're like, I'm just a kid, I don't know what's happening. But I think what had to be challenging is that the by far the majority of your life is as an adult, and you
Yeah,
are sort of stamped as this
yeah,
little kid. It's like, dude, thank you, but that was way long time ago. I hope I would hate for you to think that people, well, to meet the CEO of this bank, good to meet you, you're multimillionaire. But you know what? I really think of you. I think of you when you're in kindergarten. That's the way I read. You're like, what are you talking about?
yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't even it doesn't even reflect your life because you're not even mature yet. You don't know what's going on in anything. So in that
yeah,
regard, it must be a little disconcerting because you're infantilizing me. You're looking at a 70-something-year-old adult going, little Ricky. It's like, it's
yeah,
weird. I mean, you're the one that lives it, but am I onto something that there's something almost
yeah.
creepy about it that
Yeah,
they're putting you as this
it
little
really
kid?
is. I mean, you don't know how creepy it can get sometimes with some of the fans, but
That's what I'm
but
getting at. Like they
yeah,
maybe want you to act in some odd way. I don't know. Tell me a story
yeah.
where you're like going, okay, you crossed the line. I ain't doing that.
Well, I mean, there's weird stories, but I mean, most people wanted me to do like Babalu. Okay,
Oh,
so that was a big number that Desi
yeah.
Arnaz from Cuba,
You mean
and
like
it was
just
this.
sing it a cappella off the cuff?
Yeah, sing Babalu. And I have a problem with that because I thought it was just a ridiculous, kind of a goofy Hispanic thing, Babalu. I didn't know that it was the name of a Cuban voodoo god
Oh.
from Santeria.
Mm.
So we were actually singing the Babalu song to the god Babalu, the Cuban voodoo god.
Wow.
Uh, and so that blew my mind when I looked into that. And it's like I tell people that's one song I'm not going to sing Babalu. I'm not going to do that for you.
Yeah. Well, what do they when people meet you? Do you go to like Comic Cons or I don't even know if there's an equivalent for
I do all the Hollywood shows, and I do some of the Hollywood shows. The different autograph meet and greet things like that. People want your autograph, they want a picture of you, and get a picture with you. It's an industry that sports people do it.
Yeah.
Everybody. You have like there was like rock bands that do it.
So let me ask you this. When people meet you under, especially under those fan uh, uh,
Yeah,
conferences where they're going specifically because they know you and they like you and they're fans of you.
yeah.
Um, so I guess what I'd rather ask is at times because this is part of your life and people
Hmm.
see you and find you in a certain phase of your life, not in a mean way or in some, I mean, you know, you were a part of a show they enjoyed and you fulfilled their life. So, I mean, it's not like there's something wrong with them that they appreciate what you did.
Yeah,
Nevertheless, you've quite moved on in your life, but in them, you're still that kid, I guess.
that's right.
So
Yeah.
what is it, um, from your angle, since very few people would have this experience that you have, to have been on a sitcom, to have been part of a successful one, so it's truly iconic. It's
Mhm.
lasted forever. What does it feel like for you? Is there ever a sense of, I mean, how would people perceive your day to day? I'm getting a little in the weeds here, but I'm trying to see if people can understand what you experience having this attached to you. In other words,
Mhm.
is there something in some ways you wish you could take the skin off and remove, and you're stuck, and it almost feels suffocating, or have you just worked through it and accepted it as it is, and
Mhm.
whatever they need, here's my picture, here's my thing, I'm good.
Yeah.
But I just wonder how people would relate to, what does it feel like to have been somebody like that, and you're
Mhm.
stuck with it for the rest of your life.
Mhm. Well, I mean, it's really how you accept it or not accept it. And if there was a long time in my life when I didn't accept it. And then I began to accept it, especially after I was born again and came to faith in the Lord. That changed the whole picture in my mind. And I began to see things differently. And people will come up to you and say, I love that episode with you and Fred, your dog, and how was, did you get to keep that dog? And I love that time, when Superman came on your show, and even as a little kid, you're talking about perceptions. George Reeves, the original Superman, um, came to my birthday party on one of the episodes, and I was introduced to him as a little kid. And so, 5 years old, 6 years old, shaking hands with George Reeves, and it was like, wow, this is Superman, because he was my idol. I
Mhm.
watched him on television. He was real to me. I was jumping off roofs and
Yeah.
all that, what was
Yeah.
going on. But it was like in my acting mind, I knew he was not really Superman. But in my kid mind, which
Yeah.
took over, he was super. So it was like this duality. And I think that's how it is with people when they see whoever, whatever star, you just can't believe that you're with this person that, you know, is that person,
Yeah.
and that you knew in whatever context you saw that person in, and
Yes.
it's like, wow, that's amazing, and people, I get fan mail all the time, um, here, at our office, and people wanting me to sign this, sign that, sign this, sign that. You know, it's just, I think with today's technology and everything, and so many different formats, that I mean, Lucy is 24 hours on Pluto, and we watch it. My wife and my wife will put it on. We'll just sit there, and it'll be in the background somewhere. And there was a time in my life when my daughter was growing up that she became a fan, and we had like the old videos. And but I would really kind of like tell her, hey, can we not be playing I Love Lucy all the time? I just didn't want to, I wasn't at a point where I could appreciate it. But it's like I'm seeing things more, even on that show, that I appreciate.
How much can you remember though, since you were young? In other words, and then we're getting older anyways. So even if in my normal life, I wasn't on a TV show, but I don't remember half the stuff that happened to me when I was 5 years old. So can you even really recall vividly a lot of that, or is it just in little pieces? I can't remember that thing, or I remember when I did that on the couch, or I mean, is it more like just little fragments in your head, or is it very much a recall that's pretty specific?
I think it in my case, I can remember pretty good. And you know, I, the shows actually bring back my memories,
Hmm.
of things, of what I was thinking at that particular point. And it's like, I guess God gave me a pretty good long-term memory, so I can really, um, you know, sense how I was feeling and what I felt about it, about doing that,
Yeah.
whether I thought I did well or not.
So let's kind of, I guess, talk a little bit, not a ton, but again, just to kind of culminate this, because it is, like you said, as a believer now, let's face it, that opened up doors for you and access to people that would never have happened in any other way. I mean, I'm
Hmm.
guessing your music has helped in that regard, but David and Giants isn't as famous as I Love Lucy. I mean,
No, 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 no kidding. Yeah.
yeah, so it just is what it is. So instead, so like you said, embrace it. Okay, let's see how I can use this, for God's glory. Um, I don't know. So again, I'm just going to kind of gloss over this just so that everybody feels that I didn't waste not moving into the space of
No,
Lucille
that's
Ball
good. That's
and
good.
Desi Arnaz. But again, I'm just trying to think of ways that might make it more interesting for you as well. But you do, I'm guessing. So did you feel a fairly well? You said that you were almost like a kid
Uh-huh.
to Lucy and Desi's family. So I
Yeah.
guess you just you think of them or remember them like what? Like just friendly adults, or do you think of them as like second parents, or just like, yeah, there was these grown-ups that I really like that I was on a TV show with?
They were like my parents in a way,
They were.
but they were my bosses too.
Yeah,
So
but did you
so that
ever get that feeling that they treated you like that, being as young as you were?
well, they did treat me, you know, they protected me, made sure everything was okay on the set, made sure nobody cussed around me. They would be fired if they did. Gave me presents for my birthday. I spent weekends and summers with the Arnezes in their different homes in California. Grew up with their kids and was like a part of the family. I mean, sat at their dinner table numerous times, uh, and just was a part of their family.
Did the actual Desi Arnaz Jr. ever feel jealous of you, that that should have been me?
Well, he even states that he did. And there was always competition with me and Desi. Um, there was a sense of competition. I didn't really feel like it was competition, but he felt like it. I think felt like it was competition, um, and he was always trying to be kind of like me because I was about 2 years older than he was. I played the drums. He didn't at the time, so he learned the trap set. He got lessons, learned. We played together in different little scenarios. And I actually played in Dino, Desi, and Billy, sat in for him when he got in a surfboard accident one time. So we had this kind of like bizarro Twilight Zone parallel life going on where he has a lot of similarities with me that's really kind of odd. Even marrying a ballet dancer, which I married a ballet dancer, had a school and which we do. Um, but I think he had the opposite side of me where people thought he was little Ricky. Instead of like, are you really Desi Arnaz,
Oh,
son or Lucia Ball's son? They would say, are you, how, I just loved you on the I Love Lucy show. And he was never on the I Love Lucy show. So he got that part of it and got sort of typecast as maybe Little Ricky in people's minds because they
yeah.
didn't give me the credit on the show. So it was like he he in a sense has come to terms more with the whole thing because he's gone through a lot of therapy and he's gotten into new age more philosophy and things like that, whereas I'm a Christian, I'm a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ. And so we have long conversations sometimes every 2 years. We'll talk about, a couple hours on the phone and catch up with one another. But, we really have a tie in that we have experienced a lot of our early lives together and went through a lot and saw a lot with Lucy and Desi's marital difficulties,
Yeah.
the arguments, the alcoholism, the crazy stuff that happens in life, that can happen.
It sounded like like when you just prefaced it, that they tried to shield you from like, crude language or whatnot, and that's good for them trying to protect a young kid. So my guess is that you maybe weren't quite as aware maybe of the dynamics of these adults. I mean, we always heard the stories of Vivian Vance and William Fawley hated each other, and maybe that's overblown. Maybe it's not. I don't know. And if it was true, maybe as a little kid you wouldn't have been able to pick up on it anyways. I don't know. But how did you feel around them? Did they feel like, oh, it's my aunt and uncle? Everybody's, because you need some chemistry, right? You gotta be loving on
Yeah.
each other. You're a family, so to speak, in the show. I mean, did you have any special memories of them, or were they kind of came in, clocked out, and that's the end of that?
It was a very good camaraderie and working relationship within the group, and everybody appreciated each other, where everybody, looked to each other and knew that this person was supposed to be here. With William Frawley and Vivian Vance, they came to work like you said. They did their job. They were professional, and then in the context of all that, it was just a very nice stage that I experienced. I could sense sometimes, as a kid, you don't know what adults, sometimes their humor does, you don't catch their humor. And so I would sense that they were like maybe a little tense with one another, like we were getting ready to come on a scene, and I was coming in with them, and they were getting ready, and you could couple of words back, and you could tell they weren't digging each other at that point. It was like a little snipey, snippy. But I think overall, I think it was overblown. That whole, at least when I was on the show. Maybe before I was on the show, there was more of that. But when I got on the show, the atmosphere changed, so to speak.
Why do you think they didn't like each other? Was there any particular reason why?
I think yeah, Hollywood, especially older Hollywood types, they don't want to be cast with someone that's their husband that looks like he could be their father. So I think, it was all about looks, and Lucy wanted to be the main beautiful person. Um, and then Viv was the old neighbor who was just, the plain Jane type of person who was married to an old fuddy-duddy. And so I think maybe that was part of it, but Bill had an alcohol problem, and I think they told him before that if he came on the set drinking, that would be it. He was a great guy. It's like I'd see him at the donut the coffee place, on stage, and he'd say, "How's the world treating you today, Keith?"
Yeah.
Just nice,
Did you I don't remember. Was it Paramount? What was this? What stage were you guys on?
Desilu, which
Desilu.
became Paramount,
Okay.
which was right next to Paramount, but Paramount took it over.
So was there any other shows happening at that time that they were producing?
Yeah, they were. Well, they had the Danny Thomas show, Bill Dana show, Joey Bishop show. Andy Griffith was shot on that Cahuenga lot, which I did later, and then on the RKO set, which became Desilu, that was next to Paramount Studios. They had Star Trek. My Three Sons was next door. Uh,
But I mean,
here's
were there any child actors on set or in the studio area that maybe you made friends with from other shows, or was there nobody your age?
Yeah, I mean Angela Cartwright, she was on Sound of Music, Lost in Space, Danny Thomas. I was friends with her. She was younger than me. We went to school together. Rusty Hamer, who was on that same show, I was friends, friends. I didn't really hang out with him, but Jerry Mathers, I went to high school with Jerry, the Beaver, and who else? John Provost, Lassie.
Hmm.
I would visit his set mainly to see Lassie, the dog,
Yeah.
as a kid. So I was, so it was fun.
I
Um,
also heard, I don't remember the man's name. He was in, I think he was in Father Knows Best. Anyways, he created some kind of a network, maybe it was him, about child actors and how maybe they can slip into depression, or just their life kind of spirals out of control. And I don't know if it's a correlation to them being in Hollywood or whatever. I don't know. I mean, it seems like Ron Howard seemed to be pretty balanced kid, and he'd gone on to be quite obviously very famous as a director now. So it's not like it's an automatic death sentence if you're a kid on a show. But
yeah.
do you think there is some reason why maybe they get this fame, maybe a little bit of money if their parents let them see it, and then it goes away, and maybe they feel like, what's my purpose in life now? I mean, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
not going to speculate. I'm just trying to set you up with. Do you think there can be some pitfalls for kids that are too young and get into this fame thing?
Yeah, I think so. Because once you lose, when you're in that bubble, you're exalted, you're lifted up, you're everything, and it's like you get into the real world, you've kind of done and been that, or grown up, grown too big for the role or whatever, and your voice has changed and you're a different person. You look at it like you said, like you're a has been, and there's nothing more to life if you don't have anything to anchor your life,
Yeah.
and you don't have anything that's a purpose and value and vision. You will end up like the stereotype.
But were you even interested in furthering an acting career, or did you kind of get burnt out and say, I'm moving on to music. I'd rather do that.
Yeah, when the I Love Lucy, the last I Love Lucy episode, the Lucy Dizzy Comedy Hour with Ernie Kovacs and Edie Adams, that was I was really embracing the acting thing. And then after that show, Lucy and Desi divorced. The show ended. We ended up canceling, the whole thing. I was on the unemployment line at the age of 9 years old with other unemployed actors, and that was a weird feeling too. But I did some Andy Griffith stuff with Ron. He was a great guy, one of the better kid stars in Hollywood that I really got along
That
with.
sounds like his dad and mom were really proactive in trying to
They
keep
were
them grounded and how to
they
see
were
things, and how you don't get a
yeah,
big head and you still
that's
are
right.
do your chores. I mean, they tried to
Yes.
make him live like a kid, even though they
Yeah.
weren't. And of course, his dad was an actor, so he probably knew potentially what could go wrong if he did. So, I mean, kudos to them, man. They really did well to keep both their boys on the straight and
They
narrow,
did.
and they've ended up having careers all throughout the rest of their life.
They did. I mean, Clint went through his period too, but that's it. Everybody's different, but I think that it can be okay. Like our grandson has been accepted by about. He's had acting lessons, and my daughter, he's a basketball player. That's the main thing he does. They've talked about some acting things, and so do you really want to get into that? Do we really want to go that way, or does he really need to go there, or does anybody really need to go? That it's not something that you really want to do and have a passion to do.
Well, it's a tricky thing though, because when I was in class in Beverly Hills, so it's where all the action is, right? And trying to learn the fundamentals. I mean, you can either
Uh-huh.
act or you can't, but you can certainly hone things and learn things. And uh,
Right.
I I remember just doing scenes and doing certain things and just kind of feeling, because I was always a believer, is like, you know what, I, I acting kind of demands um that you are available to whatever this character is. You
Uh-huh.
kind of have to become whatever this character is, and if that
Uh-huh.
character is evil and dark uh,
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot, or
Yeah.
curses or it kills or is having sex all over the place,
Mm-hmm.
it's your body doing that. Whether
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
playing somebody.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but
it so it talk to me about Christian and an actor, because Keith, I was doing certain scenes, and maybe there'd be a romantic scene, you're kissing a girl when I'm married, and honestly, I didn't care, because I felt like, well, I'm an actor. I mean, this is what they do. I mean, I might as well get used to it. But there came a point where I go, you know what? I got to be honest, this isn't the kind of stuff I want to do. I don't want to do this kind of I don't want to tell a story that I don't believe in. I don't
mm-hmm.
mind necessarily playing a bad guy if he's brought to repentance, or if he gets his just desserts. If the story is 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 moral,
Yeah.
and the bad guy loses and the good guy wins, and God's kind of story retold through all stories are kind of God's stories, right? Um,
Yeah.
I can accept that. But if I don't believe the story is redeeming and beautiful, I just don't want to be associated with the story, because once you're on a movie, you're in it forever. It's that people are going to be influenced by this thing for the rest of eternity, as long as there's an internet. You are
Mm-hmm.
there saying, hey, go do drugs, whatever you're doing. So do you, I guess you're kind of out of acting for quite some time, but do you feel like it is challenging to navigate? What am I allowed to do? You're talking about your grandson wanting to get into it, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that you're as concerned about him acting as what that is going to entail. The kind of people you're
Mm-hmm.
going to be around, the kind of things you're
Yeah.
going to do, is not wholesome.
Yeah.
It's pretty dark.
It is. It
So
is.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, you've got to, and there's a lot of compromise. If you're a believer, you're gonna be compromised in some way if you want a part, and you want a good part, and you're gonna adapt the character that you play and portray, and whatever character that is. I have a little theory that, I wonder why the people in Hollywood and the actors in Hollywood are so weird. And I don't know any other word to, as far as just being out there sometimes. Uh, I think it's because of all these roles that they became, and it's almost like you're taking in a spirit of that character, whoever that character is, and they have these multiple characters and personalities, and I'm this guy today, I'm that guy today, and I think that's a door opener in a lot of ways to
Well, and it
interference.
does seem that whoever controls that machinery, they pretty much decide how you're going to think, what ideas, what ideology, philosophies you're going to be allowed to stand for, and we're going to demand what that means. It's going to be left. You will be left leaning. You will be a
Yeah,
progressive. You will
yeah,
stand for that you went in this game. This is
yeah,
the cost. This is what's going to cost you to
yeah,
play in this
yeah,
game and to play in this league. And now we're hearing crazy stories of Luciferianism and satanic
yeah,
stuff, which always sounded a little over the top, buddy. I think this is real deal. I think these guys have gone into the darkest places and are really selling their soul.
yeah.
Like and look at what's happened to the world, my friend. We have people that are mutilating children. They are killing babies and applauding it. They are saying there's no reality.
Yeah.
They have jettisoned. We got a complete political party that's thrown God out and are
Mhm.
proud of it. I mean, it's dark times.
It
and it's
is.
demonic times, and it seems
Yeah.
like people are can't see, they can't think, they're not logical. That's, to me, that's a befuddling that is spiritual, that there is a
Hmm.
an unleashing of hell onto this earth that
Yeah.
I don't know we've ever seen. Maybe it's always been here, and they were more uh, they were more private about it. They were
Yeah.
more I don't know, just they didn't want to be seen. But now it
Yeah.
feels like they're just saying, "What are you going to do? We're here."
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so something seems to be afoot from the spiritual realm that is much more. There's just seems to be a lot more at stake than I ever could ever imagine in my lifetime, as to what seems to be driving the world.
Yeah. Jesus said, in the last days it would be like the times of Sodom and Gomorrah in the days of Noah. So, I mean, we're looking at where good is evil and evil is good. And if you're on the side of good, you're evil.
Yeah, right.
And if you have morals, you're evil. If you have godly standards, you're evil.
Mm,
You're fascist. You're this or
right,
that,
right, right.
it's come to that right now. And where we as Christians, we should be light. We should stand our ground, be light, stand our ground, and love instead of hate.
Yeah,
Love, use love, because that's the devil wants us to hate and have a civil war, and wants us to really be divisive. And look at the other side, the people that are standing for evil as the enemy. Which is not, they're not really our enemy,
yes,
even though they're the manifestation of a demonic influence in our culture that is out of the darkness, and it's coming to the light. So
yeah,
they're proclaiming their evil. They're satisfied. They're proud of the fact that they're evil.
yeah.
They're proud of the fact that they stand for uh, all the different issues that we
Well,
have.
what's made it so difficult for American Christians, I always differentiate between American Christianity and others, because most of Christianity, or a large majority of it, is persecuted. It faces a
Yeah,
very heavy cost for their
yeah,
faith, and they are also a thriving church. They're a powerful
yeah,
church because they took it seriously when God said, "Listen, count the costs, because if you jump in with me, and if you do it right, if you're serious, they'll hate you. You need
yeah.
to know that." And we're all like, "No, no, no, I want everybody to love Jesus. So, what do I
Mhm.
need to compromise to make everybody love Jesus?" And he said, "No, no, 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 you don't get it. They're going to hate you because they hate me, because I have exposed their darkness. I demand,
Mm,
when you say love, right? And we all believe in love, and it is a beautiful thing, and God is love. But we have to go a step further. We also need to define what we mean by love.
mhm.
And if you believe that love means there are no boundaries, you don't understand love. If you mean love means that there's no discipline, you don't understand love. You're talking
Right.
about lust, you're talking about emotions, you're talking about romanticism. Love holds you accountable
Yeah.
to someone you say you're loyal to.
Mhm.
Love
That's
says
right.
that I have to call you out if you are on the way over a ledge, because I don't want you to die. And
Mhm.
there's not an addict in the world that wants you to tell them to stop their drugs.
Yep.
They resent it. "Get out of my
Yeah.
face, man. I like
Mhm.
this." And you're
Yeah.
saying, "I'm going to love you enough for you to hate me, because, buddy, you're dying, and I'm the
Yeah.
only one telling you,
Yeah.
and you hate me." The
Yeah.
ones that are letting
Yeah.
you go off the cliff, you love them. They don't give a crap about you because they're letting you die. So Christianity, when done right, is really hard, and there's a lot at stake, because you have to
Yeah.
be kind, and you have to be nuanced. You're trying to be, able to help let people hear you,
Yeah.
but the truth is offensive.
Yeah. It is. It is offensive. And
So,
it draws out the demons in people too when you tell them that. And then you
well,
got another battle going on.
but it is the ultimate truth. As we get to the end of this interview, I think we've gone over a few minutes, and I don't want to take up your time, brother. You
Oh,
came in
that's
last
fine,
minute,
brother.
and I just, I appreciate you taking time with me. I don't know if you were ever familiar with what I did, so if so, great. If not, I'm glad you still took some time to come in with me. Tell me about Ballet Magnificat.
Well, it's like it's a ballet that presents the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we're a touring company, tours all over the United States and internationally. We're going to Europe in spring. We started a dance company and ballet school in Brazil, and that's thriving now, starting to thrive. And it's like God uses, we've been to China, danced in China for a couple times, been to Singapore, been to Israel about 7 times, danced for Holocaust survivors, and did stories like The Hiding Place, the Corrie Ten Boom story.
And
If
you
you're
do that
familiar
to
with that.
ballet?
Yeah, we did that to ballet. Had Nazi outfits and different, Jewish people were represented. Bless those people, and even handed out books of Hiding Place to the Holocaust survivors, where they get the gospel. These
Yeah.
are Jewish people, not necessarily Christians, but there are a lot of secret, under the cover Christians in the Jewish community there. But yeah, Ballet Magnificat, well, it's like you can use music for the Lord and you can use dance, because Psalm 149, 150 says to praise him with the dance, praise him with music. And so if you can do it in an excellent way, in a professional way, in a modest way, in an intriguing way, in an artistic way, do it
Do
and
you
present the gospel.
do you write original scores for it, or do you use like public domain stuff?
We normally use other, because it's a choreographic thing, so it's particular to the choreographer guy or girl, and so they usually pick music that inspires them. So it's hard to do something that somebody else wants you, or to come up with an idea and to get this guy to write for you. It's hard to because it doesn't really compute sometimes. It's just really funny with dance in particular. Um, but we can choreograph stuff that people sends us if they want us to do something specially for them. We can accommodate them. But as far as this stuff goes, you have to
And
have our
I'm assuming
inspiration.
people have to audition if they wanted to be part of the troupe.
Yeah, we have a trainee program. We have about 50 trainees that come live here, work in Jackson, Mississippi, and they will come into the company through a process that we pick them, and they're here for 2 or 3 years, and we get to know them, and they're strong believers.
And if you were to know your time was short, and it is for all of us, we're all
Yep.
terminally ill. The lay of the land, like you said, I mean, I think a lot of the reason I know it's something significant is because even non-believers now are kind of saying something's weird, something's up.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual thing, and they've never experienced that before, or even gave it credibility. And now they're facing the reality. There is another dimension. There is a transcendence, and that's really what you need to be aware of. So, here's a man that was a famous actor as a child on a very famous TV show that people can watch to this day, and look at, Keith here at this moment, and go to YouTube and see him, uh, 65 years ago, right? What he was doing, or whatever it is. And that's cool. And, you obviously left a legacy and a mark. But I'm guessing that, I don't have to guess, I know that the legacy and the mark, clearly that has mattered the most to you is your faith, that Christ is what motivates you, what is the foundation of everywhere else you go in. Doesn't mean you can't be a musician or whatever, but you're doing it in honor of the creator of all things. So what
Amen.
would you kind of leave folks with, maybe if they were watching, they tuned in because it's like, oh my gosh, little Ricky, I got to see this. What would you want to tell them, just from your own personal heart to them, as far as how to think about maybe where they are in their life and where they may want to consider going?
Yeah. Well, I think the most important thing is the fact that Jesus is real,
Mm.
that he's a real living God man who's in heaven right now, waiting to come back. And he is coming back. And he's coming back to those who are waiting for him and watching for him. And if you're not waiting or watching for Jesus, obviously you're not in the right place in your spiritual walk. We should be waiting and watching for him, because that's the culmination of our faith in Christ. But if you don't know Jesus, then you have an opportunity and a grace right now to choose Jesus and let him be your rest. Why don't you rest from your works and your repenting of your sins? Why don't you repent of your sins, turn from your sins, rest on the work that Jesus did, because you can't be good enough. You can't go up to heaven and say, well, why do I, like the Lord says, well, why do you need to be here? And you say, I hope my good works outweigh my bad, or the good things I've done in my life will, you'll have mercy on me. It doesn't work like that. There's only one salvation, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, and that's in Jesus Christ. And I would just encourage you that God loves you very much. He gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever should believe in him should not perish but have everlasting life. And that for times like this, once you do that, once you place your faith in Jesus, if you are in trouble, God is an ever-present help in times of trouble. And he is a God who can be trusted. He is a God who you can put your trust in, and you will not be ashamed once you do. He is real. Jesus of Nazareth, the one who died 2,000 years ago and rose from the dead. He is as real as us talking right now, or realer. He's realer than that, if that's a word.
No, it
He's-
is. Thank you. Yeah, no, that's true. And thank you for just sort of the passion and the truth. Folks, here I am. I'm a stand-up comic, whatever. But in the end, I kind of destroyed my mainstream career when I came out and said I'm a Christian and a conservative, only because I felt like there were things I had to say that were more important than just entertainment. Something was wrong with me stopping short of going deeper. And the only reason that is true, I realize now, is because it was an anointing, a prophetic sort of voice that he said, I have other things to say, and you're not going to be able to not say it. And that's when you know it's anointing. It's not special. I'm not better. I'm just saying you come to the spiritual realm and you will be given a task. You'll be given a purpose that you'll be responsible for. And I do it
That's right,
as
a
a
purpose,
comic, and you do it as a musician as well as did it as an actor. You're using that time of your life to continue to motivate interesting people to come meet you. And next thing you know, something you did at a 5-year-old is still affecting humans' lives. So a lot of weight was given to that in your life, and you never even knew it. I'm going to ask you only one last question. It goes out to my subscribers, the mighty 10,000, the militia of the mind, those who care about wanting to be part of this ministry, become disciples. Remember, you were never called to be a Christian. You were called to be a disciple, and that's the hard part. That's the hardest part. It's why few people do it. But yet it's the whole thing. It's about giving your life away. So if you want to join. So good. Just go to bradsign.com and do that. But one of the things you'll get is you get a special guest answer that is only for those who donate and are part of the ministry. It's only $3 a month, guys. But anyways, so I want to ask you, I guess we'll just sort of end where we started, just because it is what makes you're the only guy in the world that can do this, is talk about that I Love Lucy. So would you do me a favor, if you can, just give me one story of the most interesting or wonderful or special experience of all that time on I Love Lucy. Was there one specific time or moment that just specially stands out, that was just something you've never forgotten and it really stuck with you in a beautiful way, or maybe in a bad way? I don't care. It's your story, but just something unique that maybe most people wouldn't have known about that on I Love Lucy, and a special time that you remember and mattered to you for some reason.
Well, believe it or not, I was hypnotized.
Hey guys, I'm interrupting my own interview. If you want the answer that you haven't heard yet, go to bradstein.com and join one of the 3 tiers. It is the militia of the mind, it is the warrior level, or it is the special forces. And then you'll get all kinds of special content and bonus answers to make you smarter than you could ever imagine. Go there now, jump on and join the Mighty 10,000. Well, brother, I thank you so much for taking time to be with me. I obviously, you brought a lot of laughs and joy to people's lives as a little kid.
Thank
And
you.
I Love Lucy. It's a great sitcom and really just blazed the trail for every sitcom after. But more importantly, your boldness, your faith, your commitment to what is true, what mostly matters. And again, maybe you will do me the favor of coming on again someday, and we can talk about some more things. But I always love to meet a new brother in Christ. And maybe if I'm going through Mississippi, I'll try to look you up one of these days. People, go to Ballet Magnificat. Go watch them wherever they might be wanting to perform. If you have a kid that wants to dance, maybe that's something you can look into. Maybe there's an option for them there. I don't know, but I'm guessing they are. But as we leave you, remember,
Absolutely.
yeah. As we leave you, folks, I just remember that if you are a Christ follower, you're the last truth tellers on earth. So do so boldly and unapologetically. You have the truth. So set it free so it can set others free. Remember, if they ever say you're politically incorrect, always say thank you for the compliment. That means you actually care more about truth than feelings. And that is the only way you can change people's hearts. And remember, I'm just a comic. I'm an idiot. So don't hold me accountable for nothing. But I am doing what I'm supposed to do, which is putting the woke back to sleep. I'll see you next Monday.